What's up, friends and fam? My name's Lyman Gillen, and in this video I'm going to show you how to take your pictures from looking bland and boring into saturated, delicious works of art that you can start using to crush your Instagram game with, all with a little help from Adobe Lightroom. So, without further ado, let's smash into it. Are you excited? I'm excited. And open up Adobe Lightroom, and you can see I have it opened up and I have my pictures imported that I'm going to be working with. And so this is going to be what we're starting off with. This is baseline, and so a little bit of a backstory on this photo shoot. It was a Monday night. One of my good friends, Andy Austin, hit me up and he's like, "Hey, do you want to go and climb a mountain to do a sunset yoga shoot at?" And I was like, "Oh, let me see what I have going on in my schedule." Yes. Typical Montana things. In any event, this is gonna be what we're starting off with, and then we're gonna be ending up with something a little bit closer to this. So, nice saturated goodness, all sorts of cool colors, good clarity here in the foreground, all the good stuff. I always start editing any picture up into this little corner right here. And so I'm gonna tweak this contrast just a little bit, up the exposure, and then I always end up dropping highlights. And normally when you see people editing the highlights, they usually cut it out entirely. I'm not about that life. When you cut it out entirely, it ends up with some weird colors out in here. And I don't know, you get some like weird highlight roll off, and maybe my camera's not good enough for that. I don't know, but we're gonna leave about -62. That looks good. We're gonna up the shadows, and normally I wouldn't just dime the shadows, but in this instance I'm going to, and you can see it really makes this exposure, because otherwise it would be way too dark of an exposure. People would be like, "What are you doing? This is completely not exposed correctly." Adjust the whites a little bit. Some people like to bring down the whites again too. I find it just kind of washes out everything and makes everything look kind of bland and lame. So we're gonna leave it about -17 looks good. Blacks, adjust the blacks to your liking. Once again, some people like to raise this up. I don't. I like to have a nice crisp black image instead of a blown out black, which is kind of in right now. Kick the clarity up a little bit. That is starting to look good. And now, once I get down to clarity, I kind of jump down and do a weird edit. So I jump all the way down here, and then I go to my post-crop vignetting, and I apply my vignette. And since the girls here are kind of in the middle, we'll drop that midpoint down, make it a bit rounder, get a nice feather on that. And when you do this, it's gonna let you go back up to the top and make any adjustments that the vignette brought in. So right now my exposure is a little bit too dark, so I'm gonna go back up and then I'm gonna adjust accordingly. But there's one last thing that we're gonna do. We're gonna come back up and we're gonna remove chromatic aberrations and also enable profile corrections. You can see when we enable profile corrections, it gets rid of stuff like barrel distortion and all sorts of other nerdy BS that you don't even want to deal with right now. So we're going to do that, and you can see the picture's already exposed a lot better. So back up at the top, we're going to just adjust our whites a little bit again. Only really adjusting stuff in the sky here. Going to kick that contrast up a little bit more. Increase that exposure just a little tiny bit. Shadows are good where they're at. Crush those blacks just a little tiny bit more. And this is starting to look good. Now I'm going to add a little bit of vibrance. And so whenever you are doing anything with people in the frame, the most important thing that you need to remember is to make sure that your skin tones look good. And as soon as you start adjusting that vibrance filter, or that vibrance slider, excuse me, you're going to start to increase like the reds and pinks in people's skin, and that's not a good look. You don't want to look like you're flushing all the time, unless you're just me. I don't know, I'm a potato anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So we're gonna go ahead and start adjusting that just a little bit. That's starting to look good. We're gonna actually lower clarity. This is where normally you'd go into the HSL, or the hue, saturation, and luminance sliders. But I really honestly like the colors that are in this image, so I'm not even gonna mess with it at all. I'm not gonna do a single thing. I am gonna do a little bit with white balance here in a second. You will see why. We're gonna come down to sharpening. If you press Alt, it will actually show your mask of what you're gonna be sharpening when you are on this masking slider right here. So go ahead and sharpen accordingly, mask out what you wanna sharpen. We just want some of the finer details sharpened, and kick this up until you can start to see a little tiny bit of noise, and you can actually move this around, double click in, and see exactly what it is you're gonna be sharpening. So we're gonna Go until you see a little bit of noise added, so just right about there. So 55 looks good for me. Now you can see, ooh, this is looking crisp, this is looking sharp. There's a little bit of noise added, but especially for like Instagram or for other smaller format medium that you're gonna be looking at this on, it's not gonna matter. No one's gonna look, there's a little bit of noise! And if they do, you know what, screw them. Don't even pay attention to them. Don't listen to haters, you do you, all right? So, moving on, we're gonna go down to add just a little bit more vignetting. I'm a sucker for it. It really just draws your eye to the subject matter. And speaking of the subject matter, I'm gonna crop this. I'm gonna crop this because if you look, these girls aren't exactly right in the middle. And it's a minute detail, but it's bugging the crap out of me right now. So I'm gonna take care of this. And literally just the tiniest little adjustment puts them perfectly in the center of the picture, and now we're in business. Now we're gonna start doing some fun stuff with color. So I found with sunrise and sunset shoots, typically people would think that, oh, you wanna introduce a little bit more warmth into the image. Wrong. I like to introduce a little bit of coolness into the image. So we're gonna drop our color temperature just a tiny bit. I mean, like, I think I just dropped it like 200 or 300 Kelvin. And you can see it cools down the image a little bit and starts to bring out some of the pinks a little bit, because we have this really delicious, creamy, buttery red and orange and pink in the background, some salmon colors. It's so buttery that you could put it on a piece of toast and eat it with some jam in the morning. We're also gonna add a little tiny bit of pink in. Just, that's overkill, that's overkill. We're gonna add, it's at plus 15 to start. We're just gonna come over here and say plus 17, and that is looking mighty good. So now one of the things, actually to be honest, we're gonna raise that up just a little bit. There we go. Now that's looking delicious. So one of the things I like to do now that my global adjustments are all taken care of on an image like this is to really accentuate the depth that's going on. If you look out here, we have like, miles and miles and miles into the horizon, and we have these really cool layers, these gradients with the mountains on the horizon. And so what I like to do is go into my local adjustment brush here, and then I like to don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you are actually on the adjustment brush. And as you can see, I have everything normal except clarity is decreased. So the first local adjustment that I'm going to do is actually get our local adjustment brush, and then as you can see, the only thing I have is -50 clarity. And so since we added clarity in our global adjustment, I like to take some clarity out of the sky and out of the background, so you get a little bit more separation from the foreground interest and the background interest. And it also just paints the sky a little bit better, makes everything look kind of like watercolory and just really kind of surreal. So it's one of my things I like to do. You don't have to do it, but if you like it, do it. If you don't, don't. It's as easy as that. So you can see painting this in is also going to increase the exposure of the background. So then we'll also go back in and decrease that. You can see it really just makes those the clouds dreamy and kind of surreal looking, and takes a little bit of the definition out of the background. And I've found that it just, it increases your depth. It makes it seem like it's a bit farther away. It removes the background from the subject just a little bit more, and I really like how it looks. I know I've said that like 10 times already. Shut up, Lyman. So you can zoom in and make sure that you just get all of the little areas that are harder to get, and we can just keep going around. And since we're not changing a whole lot, just making it kind of blurry, you don't have to be super precise with it. No one's gonna be zooming into your image, especially on like Instagram, and going through and looking at it with a fine-tooth comb. But of course, the closer you get around the object, the better it's going to look. So you can take as much time or as little time as you'd like. I'm going quickly, and people won't necessarily notice the difference. Zoom out, and that's looking really good. And so now I'm just going to lower the exposure and increase the contrast just a little bit, and that, my friends, that's looking delicious. So one of the last things that we're gonna do, and this is totally up to taste, and you don't even have to do it if you don't want to, is go up to the graduated filter, and we're gonna drag it down from the direction where the sun's pointing down to the other diagonal. And so since the sun's kind of up in this quadrant, we're just gonna take it and drag it down like this. And we're gonna get rid of that clarity because we already just went back and did our clarity adjustment. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna add just a little tiny bit more pink. And as you can see, we only increased it up to 10, so that's not a whole lot whatsoever. And maybe dehaze, maybe. Yeah, just a little tiny bit of dehaze. This is all just to taste, you know, because we're going to be painting in just kind of where that sun is and what it's looking like. So now, that's our finished image. And so if we want to do an A/B test, you know, this is what we started with compared to how we ended. And I think it's just delicious. You know, all the colors are really crisp and clean, and the exposure is looking a lot better. You have a really wide gamut of space in between the brightest brights and the darkest darks. The subjects in focus, and they're nice and sharp and crisp, and all the colors pop. And I mean, what's not to like? This is my jam. It might not be your jam, but if it is your jam, give it a shot. Try it out. Alright guys, I hope you found this video informative. I know I had a heck of a lot of fun making it, and I'm going to be making more videos like this in the future. So if you liked this, go ahead and smash that like button and consider subscribing. If you don't, I won't hold it against you. If you didn't like this video, you know, give it a thumbs down and tell me why you didn't like it. Maybe I moved too fast in my workflow. Maybe it's all over the place. Maybe you just hate me and the stupid pictures I take. And if that's the case, then, you know, more power to you. If you found any of this stuff informative, why don't you go ahead and leave your Instagram handle down in the comments below. I'll totally add you. If you end up editing any stuff like this, tag me in it. I would love to see it, guys. Otherwise, go shoot, go have fun, take care, and I'll see you later.